No.
No?
Because
Okay.
that's what we did with the...
Okay, perfect. All right, I guess we're ready, right?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. I can't tell if I'm live over here on YouTube. Oh, I am.
Yes.
Okay, I am. I am live everywhere. Sorry, technical difficulties. All right, back to our lives on Tuesday. Thank you guys for jumping in last week if you did. This is a time for you, quite honestly. It's a time for you guys to ask questions, really dig into different things that might be confusing you. I always start with kind of like the leading headlines or things that have caught my eye over the last couple of days. But super excited because we are now live on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube all at the same time. So wherever the questions are coming from, send them my way. I usually like to start with, hang on, I don't think we're live here. Sorry about that. We were not live on Instagram. We're fixing that as we speak. Let me do another quick intro. Hi, Instagram community. We are live right now on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. We're fixing our technical issues. Hope you guys are all doing well. Again, remember, we usually do lives on Tuesday to take your questions, maybe run through any current events or things that are going on, or just simply what's on your mind. But before we jump in, I wonder where everyone's from. I love playing this game. So let me know where you're from or where you're based. I always think it's so neat to bring people together from all parts of the world. So maybe just put a quick comment below and let us know where you're from. And speaking of which, I think I posted this on my stories earlier today, but Turkey, have you guys watched some of those headlines? I am almost afraid to open up my news feed because I am worried that that death count continues to get higher and higher. So it's just, I guess it's hitting me closer to home because we were just in Turkey, right around the holiday time. And I mean, the culture, the food, the people, they are all amazing. So I can't imagine what they're going through right now. And apparently this particular humanitarian crisis is going to go on for months. So whatever we can all do to support them. I'm super involved with UNICEF. I have been for years, and now I'm on their Southeast board. That's one way to give back. They do show up in humanitarian crises. I actually want to physically go, but obviously that's not an option right now. So however we can support our first responders and search and rescue crews, I think it's so important. So anyhow, seeing lots of people in from California, from Georgia, right where we are right now. And continue to share. Where are you guys from? Maybe you know each other. You never know. All right, so what has caught my eye this week? And remember, you guys can continue to post your questions, and I'm happy to respond to those. So what has caught my eye this week? A number of different studies. First of all, let's jump into the weight loss topic for just a second. Weight loss is always something everyone's worried about, something we're talking about, and Ozempic continues to be in the news. There were two articles that caught my eye in particular, and when I'm talking about Ozempic, please keep in mind I'm also talking about Wegovy, tirzepatide, Mounjaro. There's this whole class of medications called GLP-1 inhibitors, which ultimately are acting on blood sugar and insulin and bringing those levels down. But what the patient, what you guys are experiencing is fewer cravings, eating less, all of that other good stuff. Now, last Friday when we went live, I shared my metabolism results, and it's super interesting when we pair it with this Ozempic conversation, because what we're seeing is that what it really takes to lose weight with our current lifestyles is sometimes not realistic when it comes to eating. So for example, when we looked at mine and when I've looked at other patients, and as we add years and decades to these numbers, we're finding like the amount that you're supposed to eat can be as low as 500 calories, 600 calories a day to get you in that metabolic state of losing weight. That is simply not realistic or healthy for anyone. And so that's why these medications have become all the rage, because indirectly they're suppressing appetite and cutting appetite down, allowing people to take in fewer and fewer calories. The concern with them is that they're not addressing the things that make us sick. So inflammation, hormone balance, nutrient levels. So all of that, I continue to insist, needs to be the foundation of weight loss. And then if you're at a plateau, if none of that stuff is working, you've tried every diet in the world, you've tried to, really eliminate inflammatory foods, high sugar foods, alcohol, the things we know that really affect weight, well, then there's a place maybe for these medications. But again, we're all on such a journey of learning what the right sort of food is for us. For example, processed foods. We all know that's an issue, but another headline that caught my eye was that salt, right? How many of you crave salty, crunchy foods? I'm right there, always craving like popcorn or salty vegetables or chips or something like that. It goes with adrenal fatigue, which is where you've just busted it and you're tired and you're trying to get a little bit of a hit because your cortisol's too low. So that's where the salt cravings are coming from. But more and more articles coming out about how salt is actually impacting your metabolic rate. And that in turn is creating a lot of the insulin resistance and the fat storage and the liver issues that I keep talking about over and over again. So it's sugar, watching salt intake, watching processed foods, lowering inflammation, getting the protein in so that you eat at regular intervals, and really thinking about how do you improve your resting energy expenditure. So that's the amount of energy you're burning when I'm just sitting here or you're just talking to somebody. How much energy is really being expended? If you don't have enough muscle mass, if you're not hydrated, if you haven't slept, that resting metabolic rate is going to be really low. And then that in turn is going to drive this need to eat less and less and less, which gets frustrating. And then everybody ends up throwing in the towel and not wanting to do anything. So I would say we need to change the conversation around weight and weight loss and move it away from diets and workout trends and all these other things that we keep talking about over and over again, and move it more towards how do we improve our resting metabolic rate? What are the micro movements that you can do on any given day and any given moment that keep your metabolism humming? I think it's super interesting that having had an injury where I can't now get out there and do all the things I like to do, and I'm sort of confined to rolling around on this thing or, just kind of staying within the house or whatever else, I'm actually kind of losing weight. It's really odd. And my stomach is flatter than what it used to be before. So I think it's a testament to moving, just constantly having to move throughout the day, having to lift things, having to turn things, having to use different muscles that I don't normally use before. All of it is speeding up my metabolic rate, and I'm losing weight even though my exercise is not where it needs to be. In fact, on that metabolism testing, it actually shows how exercise only gives us about 100 to 200 extra calories to play with in our daily expenditure, which is not much, right? So again, thinking about how you can move throughout the day, trying to get the water in, trying to sleep, getting your hormones balanced, that gut health component, all of those become very important. And then yes, if you're stuck, if you're plateauing, then absolutely thinking about one of these other options is a possibility. Now, there are not only medications in this world, there's also peptide therapy, which we've started to use a lot at Center Spring MD. There are peptides for weight loss, there are peptides for sleep, there are peptides for hair loss, there are peptides for hormones. But again, peptides are sequences of amino acids. It keeps us in the more natural world rather than the medication world when we're thinking about losing weight or trying to reset any of these pathways. So if you don't know much about peptides, make sure you ask your provider about that. We're doing it at Center Spring for sure, but that's an option as well to really help with kind of losing weight too if you don't want to touch the medication option quite yet. Okay, so that's the Ozempic weight loss convo. It was interesting. There was one more topic around this that I saw talking a lot about how this is a sort of a hopeful sort of medication or type of medication for people that are very obese because they have such a hard time to the point it may get rid of bariatric surgery. So it's super hopeful for them, but the problem is when everyone's using it, even if you don't have diabetes, even if your BMI is not over 30, then we need to question, are we really talking about weight in the right way and not thinking about it as a disease of inflammation that needs balancing and then might need more aggressive support, just like every other autoimmune disease. Okay, switching gears. Let's talk hormones for a second. Anyone having issues with their hormones? Anybody struggling with them, confused by them? You're not alone. We know over and over again, and we're seeing these now hit the headlines, I feel like every week or every other week, we've got a celebrity, we've got a headline, someone talking about the gaslighting around hormones and hormone health and women's health in general. So in the New York Times this week, it was in there a couple of days ago, if you guys want to look it up, there was a journalist who detailed her experience with trying to get answers for menopause, and how she was dismissed in the exam room, told she was just fine, told hormone replacement therapy was simply not safe, and that in turn made her feel horrible, right? So she was like, am I really expected to put up with the sleepless nights, the mood swings, the weight gain, not feeling like myself, not being able to focus? So many of these menopausal signs and symptoms that make women feel like they're getting old or they're not themselves, and really lead to a lot of depression. And the short answer to that is no. It's absolutely no. But we don't have a medical system that's really diving in to the menopause or hormone shifting toolbox. We don't have a system that says, okay, there are all these different things you can do if your hormones are changing. So this particular article was really focused on menopause, but I've seen the same thing with like young women going through puberty and adolescence and having irregular periods and told they're fine or they're normal, or women in their 20s dealing with maybe PCOS for the first time and told that everything's fine, you've got to go on birth control and you've got to go on these medications, that's the only way to control it. And then definitely in all women going through perimenopause and menopause, they kind of get the same conversation over and over again as well. Am I right? I mean, I know you guys have heard these things before, and it's simply not true. And I think women are coming together slowly but surely and arguing that there is a better way, that there are options. And guess what? Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine supports them. They've had a toolbox for menopause and perimenopause for thousands of years. It was a lot about gut health. It was a lot about balancing out liver health and making sure those things were where they needed to be to allow the hormones to shift without needing too much external support. Remember, food was medicine, and if you ate in a particular way, it promised less fluctuations with your hormones and an easier way for you to manage the hormone shifts. All of these are a part of the hormone conversation, but most of them are not included when you have a conversation in the exam room about hormones or hormones in general. Now, when it comes to menopause, the same rules apply. Having a healthy gut, lowering inflammation, making sure that your liver is where it needs to be and you've got good liver cleanup. And then, just like the weight loss conversation, making sure that if you've exhausted all those options and you're still suffering from symptoms, what are the medication options? What are the hormone options? What are the peptide options? Where do you go next in trying to get answers? Because here's the thing, there are absolutely answers. And hormone replacement therapy is not unsafe or scary if it's done in the right way. You have to monitor the levels, you have to understand what your genetics are, you have to make sure again that the gut and the liver are healthy and clean. And if those things are all in the right place, then hormone replacement therapy could be an option for you, but not heavy-handed, not big pellet therapy or mega doses of hormones. Those typically work against the body, right? You'll get a short-term result, but you won't get long-term relief. So instead, microdosing hormones or doing very small doses to start with to see if you get benefit, that's the better way to approach this. So when you're thinking about where do I go, I'm hormone shifting, don't feel quite like yourself, having weird symptoms, your gut's thrown off, your brain's thrown off, you're simply not feeling good, well, think about building that toolbox. And that toolbox for hormone shifting begins with a healthy gut, then with a healthy liver, then with food as your medicine, replacing nutrients and building energy, and then maybe needing medications or hormone replacement or peptide next. And I would literally walk through the system that way, kind of checking those boxes. Now, I know it's easy for me to talk about that stuff and to mouth that stuff off, but it can get confusing. That's why, remember, we've got so many resources. I've set up so many different ways for each and every one of you to get educated about your hormones. There's a hormone guide on my website. I've created the Superwoman Circle for any of you to join and really dig deep into the topic around hormone and hormone balancing, but more importantly, how that concept of hormone balancing ties into your overall health and into this theory that I have that we have multiple bodies, right? A physical body, an emotional body, a social body, a spiritual and energetic body, and an emotional body, and how they all connect together. And your hormones are your superpower. So if your hormones aren't balanced, it throws everything else off. So you can't do the things you're meant to do. You can't think clearly. You don't have the energy to go out there and chase your kids or an opportunity, and you start to retreat, right? You wind back a little bit. and you decide that you just don't want to participate or this is enough. And that's really not how it needs to be. There is a different playbook on all things hormones. And so, what I hope to do on all my different channels is to help educate women and children and men about hormones and hormone balancing so that you guys know where to start, because things are not necessarily unsafe, but they have to be done in a thoughtful and sort of methodical way, thinking through all the consequences of everything, measuring, looking at things over and over again so that you can feel good. Because at the end of the day, we are all meant to feel good. That's the one thing I know for sure, that you're not here to feel badly, do badly, be less than. That's not your calling. You're here to really own it and rock it. And if you're not feeling good, there's usually a reason. And if it's a situational reason, like your relationships or your work or anything like that, you can't evaluate it until you feel good, until your chemistry is in the right place, right? So hopefully you guys are tracking with me. You understand where I'm going with this, but we've got to change the discourse and the language around hormones, and we have to definitely change the language around perimenopause, menopause, and I'm going to throw in PCOS because that still gets missed over and over again and gaslit in the exam rooms. Okay, I'm going to stop there for a second and see if we've got any comments or questions today. Any questions about menopause, hormones, weight loss, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, any of it? Let me know. Throw it at me. I'm happy to answer a few before we sign off for today.
We have a question. My doctor said she doesn't recommend any type of HRT.
Okay, I don't know your history. So this is a question of HRT. Who is it, by the way? I can call them out. You're
Oh my god, and it's Miriam?
Miriam? Okay, so your doctor's not recommending. Hi, Miriam, how are you? Your doctor is not recommending HRT. I don't know your history, right, and your full medical profile, so it's hard for me to comment on why she's not saying it for you. But if it's a general recommendation against HRT, that's not one I agree with at all. There's so many different kinds of hormone replacement, right? There's the traditional synthetic hormone replacement that maybe our mothers or a previous generation took, like Premarin, which was from horse urine, worked against the body, led to a lot of estrogen buildup, had a lot of side effects. But today there's bioidentical hormones that can be done in a cream or a pill or a dissolvable troche or even vaginally, and they actually work beautifully with the body. So again, it's the type of hormone, the amount of hormone, the way it's given, and the monitoring. That's what you have to stay on top of. I don't really agree in the philosophy that women don't need hormone replacement. I am happy to admit to you guys that I myself was on progesterone in my 20s. It's a part of what got me better when I was going through my own health crisis. And I recently restarted progesterone as my cycles are starting to get a little bit shorter and a little bit wonkier, and feel amazing having done so. So I'm a huge believer in hormone replacement therapy done the right way.
Okay, and another user commented on Instagram and said, I didn't know it's normal to cry after you exercise.
Normal to cry after you exercise? You're going to have to tell us more about that one. I don't think most of us are crying after exercise. Either you've got so much stress built up that you're having a complete letdown after that, but just let me know what's going on. But that, I don't think I've seen a whole lot of. All right, any other comments or questions? Georgia, California, anybody else? Any other countries out there? Super curious about that. No others?
We have a comment.
Okay. Not a comment.
So it says, or not a question, but not feeling good is a blessing because it stimulates creativity and admiration for life. Without pain, life is meaningless.
Ooh, okay, so that we're getting philosophical here. All right, the comment was about not feeling good is good because it stimulates probably being uncomfortable, which then pushes us forward. I'm not going to disagree with that. I think not feeling good for long periods of time is a problem. You never want to be so comfortable that you don't ever take a risk or challenge yourself, right? But no one needs to walk around feeling like they can't sleep or they're anxious or they're having hot flashes or night sweats or heavy periods or pain. I mean, that stuff is just not worth it. Sorry, guys. I'm going to have to disagree with that. That's just not worth it. Excuse me, I keep losing my voice. There are different ways to be uncomfortable, not at the expense of your physical chemistry and your physical health for sure.
Okay, we do have a question.
Okay.
Hi, thoughts on evening primrose oil for low progesterone estrogen dominance?
Ooh, what a good question. So this one is on evening primrose oil. Have any of you tried evening primrose oil before? So I got to give my mom props. She introduced me to evening primrose oil a long time ago. She used to take it, but I actually recommend it now. It helps with hot flashes and night sweats for sure. It helps with estrogen balancing, so estrogen swinging from high to low, and it actually helps your skin and your hair as well. So it's one of my favorite sort of supplements or nutraceuticals for hormone balancing, perimenopause and menopause. Maybe we can take one more or two more. See if there's anything more here.
Let's see. I have a cold shower a day keeps the doctor away.
We're not going to comment on that one. We'll move past that one.
Okay. Do you recommend a prebiotic for gut health or probiotics?
So it depends on your situation. So if you're having a lot of bloating, you might want to start with a probiotic and do a multi-strain probiotic, something that has like around 100 billion units or so in it, and see if you improve. If it makes it worse, I would stop the probiotic and try a prebiotic. Prebiotics are the good stuff that probiotics feed on. So a lot of people with SIBO or bacterial overgrowth have issues with probiotics. They actually do better on prebiotics instead.
Someone says, how can we use primrose and how much should we take?
So I usually recommend about 500 milligrams a day. Sometimes you can go up to 500 milligrams twice a day.
And how can we use it?
It comes as a pill or a liquid. So you just take it as a pill or you can take it as a liquid. But do it based on the dose. So you want to look at the dose on the bottle for sure. All right. Well, I think are about to wrap. Any other questions or we're good?
We have one last one.
Okay.
Are enemas good or bad for you?
Enemas are a short-term solution, not a long-term solution, right? So enemas do help to get stool out that might be not coming out on its own very easily, but it's not helping the upper gut, so to speak. So an enema is a short-term fix if you're having an issue, but you don't want to be dependent on enemas. I would look more at your overall gut chemistry. Are you digesting well? Are you eating the right foods for you? Do you have enough fat in your diet, enough water, digestive enzymes? These are the things that are going to be helpful rather than depending on enemas.
All right,
All
looks
right.
like that's it.
That's it. All right. A little bit quieter crowd tonight, but remember, you can always DM me. You could join the Superwoman Circle. I believe we're having our webinar on thyroid health. I believe it's this Friday if you want to join that. Remember, in the circle, we get to not only take your questions, but we come together as a group, do a lot of group coaching, and then really walk women through some of the issues that they're having. But the fun part of it is that they have an opportunity to inspire one another. So if you haven't joined my Superwoman Circle, check it out. Lots of great offerings there. And otherwise, I will see you guys next Tuesday. All right, take care, everyone.